You've been told a story about narcissistic abuse that is not true. The story goes like this. Narcissists prey on the weak. They find people with no confidence, no backbone, no sense of self, and they exploit them. It sounds logical. It feels right. And it is almost entirely wrong. Because if you have ever been targeted by a narcissist, truly targeted, not just inconvenienced by one, you know something the popular narrative ignores. You were not weak when they found you. You were strong, capable, generous, the kind of person others relied on, the kind of person who held things together. That is exactly why they chose you. And until you understand why your strength was the thing that attracted them, you will keep mistaking their attention for admiration, and their admiration for love. Think about the moment they entered your life. Were you at rock bottom? Were you desperate? Were you begging someone, anyone, to rescue you? Probably not. You were likely at a point of competence. You had a career, or a talent, or a social circle, or an emotional depth that other people noticed. You had something that worked, and they noticed it too. The narcissist did not look at you and see a victim. They looked at you and saw a resource. They saw your empathy and recognized an endless well of emotional labor they would never have to reciprocate. They saw your strength and recognized a foundation they could build upon without ever laying a brick of their own. They saw your generosity and recognized a supply line. This is the part that haunts people. Because after the relationship, after the devaluation, after the discard, you do not feel strong. You feel hollowed out, confused, diminished. And so you conclude, I must have been weak all along. I must have had some flaw, some deficiency, some brokenness that made me a target. But this conclusion, which so many survivors reach, is itself the final act of the narcissist's distortion. It rewrites your history to match their narrative. It tells you that the problem was always you. It was not. The problem was that your strengths, unguarded, became access points. Marcus Aurelius spent his reign surrounded by people who wanted something from him, advisors who flattered in order to influence, generals who praised in order to position, courtiers who mirrored his values back to him, not out of shared conviction, but out of strategic alignment. He wrote about this not with bitterness, but with clear-eyed recognition. He understood that virtue, in a corrupt environment, becomes a target. The more genuine your qualities, the more valuable you are to someone who has none of their own. This is the narcissist's fundamental problem, and it is a philosophical one as much as a psychological one. The narcissist operates from a place of profound internal emptiness. Not emptiness in the poetic sense, in the structural sense. Their sense of self is not stable. It is not generated from within. It must be sourced externally, constantly, from the reactions and reflections of other people. Jung described this as identification with the persona, the mask. When someone becomes so fused with their external image that there is nothing behind it, they become dependent on others to provide the substance they lack. And who provides the richest substance? Not the broken, not the depleted, not the person with nothing to give, the strong one, the empathetic one, the one who sees the best in people and gives them the benefit of the doubt, again and again and again. Seneca warned that there is a form of generosity that is actually self-harm. When you give without discernment, when you pour yourself into someone who is not filling their own cup but draining yours, you are not being virtuous. You are being consumed. The Stoics valued generosity, but they valued wisdom more. And wisdom means recognizing that not everyone who praises your light is warmed by it. Some are simply studying it, so they can learn how to take it. This is not cynicism. This is the Stoic discipline of seeing clearly. Epictetus said it plainly. It is not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters. The narcissist's targeting of strong people is not a commentary on weakness. It is a commentary on what strength looks like when it lacks one critical component: boundaries. The first reason narcissists target strong people is empathy. You feel what others feel. You sense pain, confusion, vulnerability, even when it is performed rather than genuine. And your instinct is to respond, to help, to fix. The narcissist presents, especially in the early stages, as someone who needs understanding, someone who has been hurt before, someone who has never met anyone like you, and your empathy responds. Of course it does. That is what empathy is designed to do. But empathy without discernment is an open door. It lets people in before you have assessed whether they deserve to be there. It prioritizes the other person's emotional state over your own safety. Marcus Aurelius practiced something that modern psychology would call compassionate detachment. He cared deeply, about Rome, about justice, about the people around him. But he did not allow that care to override his judgment. He evaluated people by their actions over time, not by their presentations in a single moment. The Stoic counter is not to suppress your empathy. It is to slow it down, to let people earn access to your emotional depth rather than granting it at the door. Your empathy is a gift. Stop giving it to anyone who asks. The second reason is your sense of responsibility. Strong people, truly strong people, tend to take ownership. When something goes wrong, they look inward first. They ask, what could I have done differently? This is an admirable quality. In healthy relationships, it creates growth. In a relationship with a narcissist, it creates a one-way accountability system. Because the narcissist never looks inward, they cannot. Their psychological architecture does not permit genuine self-reflection without the entire structure threatening to collapse. So when conflict arises, you take responsibility, and they let you, gladly. Over time, you are carrying the emotional weight of two people. You are apologizing for conflicts they created. You are adjusting your behavior to accommodate patterns they refuse to acknowledge. Epictetus would ask, whose burden are you carrying? If you are taking responsibility for another person's behavior, you have crossed the boundary of the dichotomy of control. Their behavior is theirs. Your responsibility is to respond to it wisely, not to own it. Stop accepting blame that does not belong to you. That is not humility. That is servitude. The third reason is loyalty. You stay. When things get hard, when the relationship turns painful, when every rational signal tells you to leave, you stay. Because you made a commitment, because you believe in people, because you do not give up on someone you care about. The narcissist counts on this. They have learned through pattern and repetition that a loyal person will endure extraordinary mistreatment before they walk away. And so they push, incrementally, gradually, testing how much you will absorb. Each transgression is slightly worse than the last. Each apology is slightly less convincing. But you stay, because leaving would mean that everything you invested was for nothing. Seneca addressed this directly. He wrote about the sunk cost of misplaced loyalty, the foolishness of continuing to invest in something simply because you have already invested so much. He argued that the wise person cuts their losses not with bitterness, but with clarity. Loyalty is a virtue, but loyalty to someone who is destroying you is not virtue. It is a wound dressed up as honor. The Stoic counter is to direct your loyalty where it is reciprocated, beginning with yourself. So here is the paradox laid bare. Your empathy, your accountability, your loyalty, these are not weaknesses. They are among the finest qualities a human being can possess. But without boundaries, each of them becomes an access point for someone who wants to exploit rather than appreciate. The Stoics did not teach people to stop being virtuous. They taught people to be virtuous with wisdom, to be generous, but not indiscriminate, to be loyal, but not to the point of self-destruction, to be empathetic, but not at the expense of discernment. Marcus Aurelius was not cold. He was one of the most compassionate rulers in Roman history, but he was not naive. He paired his compassion with observation. He watched how people behaved when they thought no one was paying attention. He measured their character by their conduct, not by their words. Your strength does not need to be dismantled. It needs to be guarded, not with walls, but with wisdom. Here is what changes today. First, stop interpreting someone's intense early interest in you as proof of connection. The narcissist's idealization phase is not love. It is reconnaissance. Let people demonstrate consistency over time before you grant them access to your deeper self. Second, notice who takes responsibility in your relationships. If you are always the one apologizing, always the one adjusting, always the one doing the emotional work, that is not partnership. That is extraction. Name it. Third, redefine loyalty. Loyalty does not mean endurance of harm. Loyalty means commitment to what is real. And if the relationship is built on your compliance rather than mutual respect, it is not real. Give yourself permission to redirect your loyalty, starting with yourself. And finally, understand this. The fact that you were targeted is not evidence of your weakness. It is evidence of your value. The narcissist saw something worth taking. Your only mistake was not recognizing that admiration and exploitation can wear the same face. Now you know, and knowing changes everything. There is a version of you that the narcissist tried to erase. The version that existed before the doubt, before the second guessing, before you learned to shrink yourself to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. That version is not gone. It is waiting. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed the color of its thoughts. You have spent too long thinking in someone else's colors. It is time to return to your own. Your strength was never the problem. Your strength, properly guarded, is the solution. Trust it again. If you are recovering from a relationship with a narcissist and need professional support to rebuild your sense of self, BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who understands this kind of recovery. The link is in the description. If this gave you a new way to understand what happened to you, subscribe, because in the next video, we confront something even more insidious, the quiet cruelty of gaslighting, and what the Stoics would say about it. Be sovereign.